marketplace on the alien world was alive with strange sounds and colors. Bright lights flashed above stalls made of steel and stone, and the air was thick with smoke from burning oils. Traders shouted in many languages, trying to pull customers closer. Creatures of all shapes and sizes walked through the narrow paths, selling weapons, rare minerals, and strange food that smelled both sweet and bitter at the same time. In the middle of this chaos walked a young human named Aaron. Aaron had come to this place for one reason only: to buy supplies. His ship was low on fuel, and his food reserves were running out. He kept his head down as he walked, trying not to draw attention. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and most aliens looked at him with curiosity or suspicion. Still, Aaron had traveled far enough to know that if he stayed calm, no one would bother him. He stopped in front of a stall filled with glowing crystals. The alien trader behind the table spoke in broken words, pointing at each crystal and naming its price. Aaron tried to follow along, though the alien's accent made it difficult. The crystals were fuel sources, or so the trader claimed. Aaron needed them, but the numbers confused him. "Which one powers a small freighter?" Aaron asked. The alien smiled, showing sharp teeth, and pushed forward a crystal locked inside a small metal cage. Aaron looked at it closely. The crystal pulsed faintly, almost like it was alive. He had never seen anything like it before, but the trader kept insisting it was exactly what his ship needed. "All right," Aaron said carefully. "How much?" The alien held up 4 fingers, then tapped a screen that displayed glowing symbols. Aaron pulled out a pouch of credits, counting quickly. He handed the credits over, and the alien trader's grin widened. The cage shifted, metal unlocking with a loud click. But when the door opened, Aaron froze. It wasn't a crystal at all. Instead, a young girl stepped out. Her skin was pale, almost glowing under the market lights. Her silver hair fell across her, shoulders like strands of light, and her large eyes, bright and unblinking, locked onto Aaron's face. Her ears were long and pointed, her features too delicate to belong to any human. She looked weak, fragile, yet her presence was powerful, commanding. The crowd around the stall went silent. Whispers began to spread, and Aaron's heart started to pound. "What is this?" he demanded, turning back to the trader. The alien laughed, raising its clawed hands. "You buy, you pay. She yours now, no return." Aaron's mouth went dry. He hadn't bought fuel. He hadn't bought crystals. He had bought her. The girl took a step forward, snow-white hair swaying as she moved. She bowed her head slightly, her eyes never leaving his. Then, in a soft but steady voice, she spoke. "You freed me." The words hit Aaron like a blade. He shook his head quickly, backing up. "No, I didn't. I made a mistake. I didn't know what I was buying." But the crowd was already stirring. Some looked frightened, others looked greedy, and some, most dangerous of all, looked angry. Aaron realized at once that this girl was not an ordinary slave. She was something more, something important. And freeing her, whether by accident or not, had made him part of a dangerous game. The girl moved closer, her small hands trembling, yet she reached for his arm as if she had known him her whole life. "In my people's law," she whispered, "to free one from chains is to become bound. You are now my chosen one." Aaron's blood turned cold. He wanted to shout at her, to tell her he wanted nothing to do with this, but the words caught in his throat. Around them, voices rose louder, pointing, calling, shouting. He could feel the weight of dozens of eyes watching him, waiting to see what he would do next. "Listen," Aaron whispered quickly, leaning closer. "You've got it wrong. I don't know your laws. I didn't mean to free you. But before he could finish, the alien trader slammed his claw on the table and roared, "Sold. Human take, girl. No refunds." The crowd erupted in laughter. But beneath it, Aaron heard something far more dangerous, whispers of hunters, slavers, and enemies. The alien girl, whoever she was, had been valuable property, and now she was his problem. The girl tightened her grip on his arm. Her skin was cold, but her voice was firm. "They will come for me, they will come for you, but you cannot let them take me back." Aaron stared at her. his mind racing. His original plan had been simple: buy fuel, leave the planet, disappear into the stars, but now everything had changed. He wasn't holding a crystal. He was holding the future of someone who might be hunted across the galaxy. And worse still, he was now a part of it. Behind them, the crowd parted as armored figures appeared, pushing through with weapons at their sides. Their eyes locked on the girl, and their expressions turned dark with fury. Aaron felt his stomach twist. He had only wanted supplies, but now he had become the center of something dangerous, something he didn't yet understand. The girl's voice cut through his fear once more. "Husband," she whispered, the word sending a shock through his chest. "You must protect me." Aaron's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't agreed to this. He hadn't planned for this. But it was too late now. The mistake had already been made. And it was only the beginning. The market was still echoing with shouts when Aaron pulled the alien girl away from the stall. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he had to leave before the armored men caught up. The crowd scattered around them, some laughing at the foolish human, others whispering warnings. The girl held onto his arm tightly, her steps, light but quick, as if she had spent her life running. They slipped into a narrow alley between two metal buildings, their shadows stretching under the flickering neon lights. Aaron pressed his back to the cold wall, breathing hard. His heart raced like a drum in his chest. He stared at the girl, trying to understand what had just happened. "Who are you?" he asked sharply, though he kept his voice low. "Why were you locked in that cage?" The girl raised her head. Her silver hair shone faintly even in the dim light, and her bright eyes seemed to hold a sadness deeper than words. "I am Lyra," she said softly, "daughter of a fallen house, slave of the markets, survivor of chains." Aaron frowned. "That doesn't explain anything. Why were you being sold like property, and why do those men want you back?" Her hands trembled as she pulled her thin cloak tighter around herself. She leaned against the wall and looked away, as though speaking her past was like reopening an old wound. "My people once lived on a world of light," she began. "Our forests glowed in the night, and our rivers sang like voices of the stars. We were free, proud, untouched by the wars of the galaxy. But one day the hunters came. They saw beauty as treasure. They saw our strength as profit. They took us, bound us, and scattered us across the stars." Aaron swallowed hard, his anger rising. He had seen slavery before, but hearing it spoken like this made it feel heavier, more real. "You've been here long?" he asked. Lyra nodded, slowly. "Years. Maybe more. Time loses meaning in chains. They wanted to break me. They wanted to sell me to the highest bidder, one who would use me as less than nothing. But I endured. I waited. I dreamed that one day someone would open the cage, and when you did, the bond was sealed." Aaron rubbed his forehead, frustration burning inside him. "It was a mistake. I didn't know you were in there. You thought it was just an object." Lyra finished for him, her voice neither angry nor accusing. "To you, freedom is a simple word, but to me it is a vow. You cannot unmake it. You cannot give it back." Aaron stared at her. The way she spoke was strange, old, ceremonial, almost sacred. And yet her eyes never wavered. She truly believed what she said. He shook his head. "I don't want to be part of this. I just need fuel for my ship. I don't want your people's laws. I don't want to be called your husband." But Lyra stepped closer, her voice lowering into a whisper. "It doesn't matter what you want. They will come for me now. And they will come for you. Because you touched what they claimed as theirs. You cannot run from this." Aaron's stomach sank. He had hoped he could simply walk away, leave her behind, and pretend this never happened. But deep down, he knew she was right. The men in armor weren't after her alone. They were after anyone who dared interfere. From the edge of the alley, voices grew louder. Heavy boots struck the ground, moving closer. Aaron cursed under his breath. Do they know where we are? He asked. Lyra nodded grimly. They always know. They mark us. They track us. You freed me. But the chain still lingers. Aaron pulled at her wrist, dragging her further down the alley. They slipped past broken doors and rusted pipes, trying to lose the sound of pursuit. Finally, they reached a half-collapsed building and ducked inside. Dust fell from the ceiling as they moved into the shadows. Aaron leaned against the wall again, struggling to catch his breath. His voice came out rough. So what now? Do I just keep running until they kill us both? Lyra's expression softened, though her eyes were filled with sorrow. No. You run until you choose not to run anymore. My people believed in destiny. We believed that freedom given is never chance. It is always meant. Aaron looked at her, confusion and anger battling in his chest. You think this is fate? She met his eyes without hesitation. Yes, you are my bond now. And in my people's way, I am yours. Husband and wife, not by choice, but by the stars. Aaron nearly laughed, though it came out hollow. That's insane. I don't even know you. I didn't mean for this to happen. Lyra stepped closer, her small frame trembling, but her voice carried strength. Whether you meant it or not does not change what is. I will not let them take me back. If you leave me, I will still call you my husband. If you protect me, I will fight at your side until death. But if you betray me— She paused, her eyes narrowing just slightly. Then the bond will curse you. Aaron's chest tightened. He didn't believe in curses. He didn't believe in fate, but the way she said it, the way her voice carried both hope and warning, made his blood run cold. Suddenly shouts rang out outside the broken building. The armored men were close, their weapons glowing faintly in the night. Aaron clenched, his fists. He hadn't asked for this fight. He hadn't asked for this girl. And yet, she was here. And he couldn't deny the look in her eyes, the desperate, burning belief that he was now her only chance at freedom. Aaron exhaled slowly. The mistake had been made, but maybe, just maybe, it was leading him into something far bigger than he could imagine. The sound of boots grew louder. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. The ruined building was dark and silent except for the sound of Aaron's heavy breathing. Dust floated in the faint moonlight that slipped through broken windows. Outside, the boots of the armored hunters marched past, their voices echoing in a harsh alien tongue. Aaron pressed his back against the wall, forcing himself to stay still. One wrong sound and they would both be discovered. Beside him, Lyra sat quietly, her silver hair falling across her face. Even now, when danger pressed close, she looked calm, too calm, as if she had already accepted whatever fate awaited them. That calmness unsettled Aaron more than the hunters outside. He turned to her sharply, whispering, "Why do you keep calling me that husband? Do you understand what you're saying?" Lyra slowly lifted her head. Her glowing eyes met his in the dim light, steady and unshaken. "I understand perfectly. You freed me. In the law of my people, that makes you my life bond, my chosen one, my husband." Aaron clenched his jaw. He wanted to argue, to shout, to tell her she was wrong. But he couldn't raise his voice, not with Hunter so close. He leaned forward, whispering fiercely instead, "That's not how this works. Where I come from, people don't just become husband and wife because of some accident. It's a choice." Both people agree. I didn't agree. Lyra tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "And yet here you are, hiding with me, protecting me already." Aaron fell silent, his chest tightening. She wasn't wrong. Against his own will, he had pulled her away from the market, led her into hiding, risked his life to keep her out of the hunter's hands. He told himself it was survival instinct. If they caught her, they'd kill him too. But deep down, he knew there was something else. Something in her eyes, in her trembling voice, had struck a chord inside him. Still, he shook his head. "This is madness. You don't know me. I don't know you. I didn't mean to free you." Lyra leaned closer, her whisper soft but firm. "Mistakes are not always mistakes. Sometimes the stars guide the hand even when the mind resists. You can fight the bond all you want, Aaron, but it will not break. The sound of her saying his name made him flinch. He hadn't told her his name. Not once. How did you? He started, but she cut him off. I felt it. She whispered. When you opened the cage, our threads tied together. Your name was given to me by the bond itself. I know it because I am yours now. Aaron's blood ran cold. He tried to tell himself it was a trick, that she had overheard someone speaking, his name in the market, that there was some logical explanation. But the way she spoke carried no deceit, only conviction. Before he could answer, the hunters outside stopped. Silence stretched like a blade through the night. Then came the sound of metal crashing, doors kicked open, walls smashed. They were searching building by building. It was only a matter of time before they reached them. Aaron grabbed Lyra's arm. We can't stay here. We need to move. But she didn't rise immediately. Instead, she placed her hand gently on his chest, her touch cold but steady. You still resist me, but you will see. You may not want the bond, but it is real. And when they come for us, you will fight for me, husband. Aaron's jaw tightened. He wanted to deny it, to push her hand away, but the sound of boots crashing closer silenced his protest. He pulled her to her feet, and together they ran through the shadows of the broken building. They slipped through a collapsed wall and emerged into a maze of alleyways. The hunters were everywhere now, their glowing weapons casting sharp beams of light across the ruins. Aaron pulled Lyra behind him, guiding her through narrow passages, his instincts screaming at him to keep her close. Every time he thought about letting go, the thought of her being taken back made his stomach twist with a strange, unfamiliar fear. At last, they reached the edge of the marketplace, where the noise of the crowd still roared. Aaron paused, scanning the crowd for a way out. Lyra stood close behind him, her hand still gripping his arm. She leaned near his ear and whispered words that made him freeze. You deny me with your mouth, but your heart already knows. You will not leave me. Aaron turned to face her, anger flashing in his eyes. You think you know me? You think because of some ancient rule you can just chain me into this? You're wrong. I'm not your husband. I'm not your savior. I'm just a man who made a mistake. Lyra's expression softened, but her voice remained steady. Then prove it. Leave me. Walk away now. Let them take me. If you truly believe I mean nothing to you, then turn and save yourself. Aaron stared. At her, his breath caught in his throat. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He wanted to say yes, to walk away, to free himself of this weight. But when he looked at her eyes filled not with fear but with a quiet trust, his body refused to move. For a long moment they just stood there in the shadows, the noise of hunters closing in around them. Then, with a frustrated growl, Aaron grabbed her wrist again and pulled her forward. Fine, but not because of your bond, not because of your laws. Because if I don't keep you alive, I won't sleep tonight. A faint smile touched Lyra's lips. Whatever you tell yourself, husband, the stars already know the truth. The hunters' voices grew louder, closing in from every side. Aaron clenched his teeth, dragging Lyra into the crowd. His mind burned with confusion, anger, and something he couldn't yet name. Maybe she was right. Maybe the mistake wasn't a mistake at all. The night streets were alive with noise as Aaron pulled Lyra into the crowd. Neon lights flickered above the market, painting every face in shifting colors. Around them, people pushed and shouted, but Aaron's focus stayed sharp. Behind him, he could hear the hunters, heavy armor, fast steps, voices barking orders. They were close, too close. Lyra clung to his arm as they moved. Her eyes darted from shadow to shadow, but she did not stumble. She seemed to know the rhythm of pursuit as though she had lived her whole life running. Still, Aaron could feel her trembling. They won't stop, she whispered. Once hunters are sent, they chase until blood is spilled. Aaron gritted his teeth. Then we don't let them catch us. But he knew it wasn't that simple. These weren't common guards or street thugs, they were trained slavers, mercenaries hired to keep valuable property in chains. And Lyra wasn't just property. The way the crowd had reacted in the market, the way the hunters moved now. She was something rare, maybe priceless. The hunters spotted them. A voice roared above the chaos and the crowd parted in fear. Aaron didn't hesitate. He shoved through a row of stalls, knocking over baskets of glowing fruit. Lyra kept pace, her thin figure weaving with surprising speed. Bolts of energy cut through the air, burning holes in the metal walls. People screamed and scattered. Aaron's heart thundered as he dragged Lyra into another alley. The smell of smoke and fire filled the air. "Stop running," one of the hunters shouted. His voice was like iron scraping stone. Aaron turned a corner, but the path ended in a dead wall. He cursed, spinning around just as 3 hunters stepped into view. Their armor gleamed under the neon glow, helmets hiding their faces, weapons raised and humming with power. Lyra pressed against him, her breathing fast. Yet her voice was calm. "They will not take me alive." Aaron's chest tightened. He didn't want to fight. He wasn't a soldier, just a traveler who had stumbled into a nightmare. But as the hunters closed in, he realized he had no choice. One of them stepped forward. "Human, hand her over. You walk away free." Aaron shook his head slowly. "Not happening." The hunter laughed. "Then you die with her." In that instant, Lyra moved. Her eyes glowed brighter, and her hands lifted as if summoning something unseen. A wave of light burst from her body, sharp and blinding. The hunters staggered, their weapons sparking. Aaron shielded his eyes, stunned by the sudden power. When the light faded, Lyra stood in front of him, her chest rising and falling with effort. The ground around her was scorched, and the hunters stumbled back in fear. Aaron could hardly speak. What did you just do?" Lyra's voice was soft but steady. "They think me weak because I was in chains, but my people are not weak. Not all bonds can break power." The hunters roared in anger, recovering from the blast. They rushed forward, weapons blazing. Aaron ducked, pulling. Lyra with him as bolts shattered the wall above their heads. He grabbed a loose metal pipe from the ground, swinging it hard at the first hunter. The blow rang against armor, but it slowed the man enough for Lyra to unleash another burst of light. This time the hunter fell, his weapon clattering to the ground. The other 2 hesitated, fear creeping into their movements. Aaron grabbed the fallen weapon and pointed it at them, his hands shaking. "Back off." For a moment the hunters froze. Then one of them muttered something in their alien tongue, and both turned, retreating into the night. Their boots pounded against the ground. Until the sound faded, Aaron lowered the weapon slowly, his chest heaving. His arms ached, his throat dry, but they had survived. He turned to Lyra, who had collapsed against the wall, her strength drained. He knelt beside her. "What was that? You could have done that back in the market." Lyra shook her head weakly. "Power is costly. Every time I call it, I burn pieces of myself. That is why I waited. But tonight, I could not let them take me." Aaron stared at her, guilt and awe mixing inside him. She wasn't just a runaway slave, she was something far more dangerous, far more important. And he had just seen why her captors wanted her back so badly. "You should have told me," Aaron muttered. Her eyes opened slowly, faint but steady. "Would you have stayed if I had?" Aaron didn't answer. He couldn't. Because deep down he knew the truth. He would have run. But now it was too late. She leaned her head against his shoulder, whispering so softly he almost missed it. "You see now why I need you, husband. Alone, I will die. With you, perhaps I live." Aaron clenched his jaw. He didn't like the word, didn't like the bond she spoke of. But after tonight, he understood something new. Walking away was no longer an option. In the distance, the sound of sirens rose. More hunters would come. Maybe stronger ones. He had only one choice now: get Lyra away from this world before they were both destroyed. Aaron tightened his grip on the stolen weapon and helped her to her feet. His voice was low, determined. "Then we get off this planet together." For the first time, Lyra smiled, and in that smile, Aaron saw something terrifying. It wasn't just gratitude. It was belief. Belief that he was more than a mistake. Belief that he was already hers. The hunters would not stop. The galaxy would not forgive. And Aaron's life was no longer his own. The stolen weapon still felt heavy in Aaron's hands as he led Lyra through the deserted back alleys of the city. The air smelled of smoke and oil, the neon lights above flickering like dying stars. Every corner seemed dangerous, every shadow a possible trap. He could hear his own heartbeat louder than the sound of their steps. Lyra walked beside him in silence, but her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. It unsettled him. He wanted answers. No, he needed them. He had risked his life more than once now, and he still didn't understand who she really was or why she was hunted so fiercely. Finally, when they stopped to catch their breath in the ruins of an old transport station, Aaron turned on her. No more secrets. You have to tell me what you are. Why are they willing to kill half a city just to get you back? For a moment, she looked away, her shoulders trembling as if a weight pressed down on her. Then she turned back to him, her voice low, almost breaking. Because I am not only a runaway slave, I am the last daughter of a house destroyed by betrayal. A house that once ruled with honor but was wiped away to make room for slavers and warlords. Aaron frowned, confused. What do you mean? House like royalty? Her eyes shimmered with sorrow. Yes. Royalty, as you would call it. My bloodline carried power, not only political but also something deeper, our bond with the light. My people believed it was a gift from the stars. We could call on it to heal, to protect, to fight when needed. But that power also made us a target. Others wanted it. They wanted me. Aaron's grip on the weapon tightened. He thought back to the blinding burst of light she had released against the hunters. Now her words made sense. She wasn't just valuable, she was dangerous. They killed my family, Lyra whispered, her hands clenched against her chest. Burned our world, scattered what remained of us across the stars. They kept me alive because they wanted to breed, me to use my bloodline for their own strength. That is why I was sold. That is why I was caged. Aaron stared at her, stunned. The marketplace, the slavers, the hunters, it all seemed small compared to what she had just revealed. She wasn't just one girl he had freed by mistake. She was the last heir of a fallen people. Lyra lifted her gaze to his, her expression grave. When you opened my cage, I thought it was chance, but when I felt the bond, I knew it was more. My people spoke of a prophecy, that in our darkest hour a savior from beyond the stars would come, not one of us, but an outsider, who would free the last heir and stand beside her. Together they would light the way for our people again. Aaron's throat tightened. You're saying, that's me? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes. The moment you freed me, the prophecy was fulfilled. You are my bond, my husband, my protector, and perhaps the savior of my people. Aaron took a step back, shaking his head. No, this is wrong. I'm not some hero from a prophecy. I'm not a king. I'm not a warrior. I'm just a pilot with a small ship who made a mistake in a marketplace, that's all. But Lyra stepped closer, her voice rising with quiet power. Then why did you not leave me? Why did you fight for me? Why did you risk your life against hunters who should have killed you easily? You may deny the prophecy, Aaron, but your actions already prove it true. He had no answer. Her words struck too close to what he feared most. That deep down something inside him refused to walk away, even when every instinct told him to. Silence filled the ruined station for a long moment. Then a distant roar echoed across the night. The engines of ships. Aaron rushed to the cracked window and looked up. His blood turned cold. 3 large vessels hovered above the city, their searchlights cutting through the sky. Symbols marked their hulls, the same slaver crest he had seen on the hunter's armor. Reinforcements had arrived. They're here, Aaron muttered. Lyra stood beside him, her face calm despite the danger. Yes, they will not stop until I am back in chains, or until I am dead. Aaron clenched his fists. He wanted to scream. to curse the stars for putting him in this madness. But when he looked at her, at the girl who had lost everything, at the last heir of a broken people, at the one who believed in him even when he did not believe in himself, he knew there was no turning back. "We need to get to my ship," Aaron said firmly. "If we can reach orbit, maybe we can lose them." Lyra's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Now you speak like my husband." Aaron rolled his eyes, but he didn't argue. Not this time. The sound of soldiers echoed from the streets below. Searchlights swept across the ruins. Their time was running out. As Aaron grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the exit, one thought burned in his mind. Maybe it had started as a mistake, but now it was destiny. The night sky burned with the glare of searchlights. The slaver ships hovered above the city like great beasts, their engines shaking the ground. Sirens wailed as armored patrols spread through the streets, their weapons glowing with menace. Aaron and Lyra ran through the ruins, shadows chasing them at every turn. Aaron's heart hammered. His ship was their only hope. If they could reach the landing bay before the hunters closed in, maybe, just maybe, they could escape this world. But every step was dangerous. The hunters knew the city better, and the skies above were no longer safe. Lyra stayed close at his side, her silver hair flashing under the harsh lights. She was quiet, but her grip on his arm was firm, as though she trusted him completely now. That trust was heavier than any chain Aaron had ever carried. At last, the landing bay came into view, a wide platform of steel lit by rows of flickering lamps. Aaron's ship rested there, battered but functional. Relief surged through him, but it vanished as quickly as it came. A squad of hunters was already waiting. They stepped forward, armored figures with rifles raised, blocking the path. Behind them, the largest hunter Aaron had ever seen emerged from the shadows. His armor was black, his crest marked with scars of battle. His voice thundered through the bay. "Human, the girl belongs to us. Hand her over, and you may leave with your life. Refuse, and you will die here." Aaron froze. He could feel Lyra's eyes on him, waiting for his answer. His throat went dry. Every logical thought screamed at him to let her go. She wasn't his problem. She wasn't his responsibility. If he surrendered her, he could walk away, fuel his ship, and disappear back into the stars. But when he looked at her, at the last heir of a broken people, at the girl who called him husband, at the one who had placed all her belief in him, he knew the truth. Walking away was no longer possible. Aaron tightened his grip on the weapon he had stolen earlier. His voice was low but steady. "She's not yours. Not anymore." The black-armored hunter laughed, a sound like metal breaking. "Then you choose death." The squad raised their weapons. The air crackled with energy. Before Aaron could move, Lyra stepped forward. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, her hands trembling as she summoned the light once more. "I will not return to chains," she whispered. Then she unleashed her power. A wave of blinding light erupted across the bay, throwing the hunters back like rag dolls. Their weapons sparked and failed, their armor scorched. The black-armored leader staggered but did not fall. He roared in fury, charging through the smoke with a blade that glowed like fire. Aaron raised his weapon, firing desperately, but the hunter's armor absorbed the blasts. The massive figure closed in, blade swinging. Aaron barely rolled aside. In time, the blade carving a scar into the steel floor. The fight was chaos. Sparks flew, smoke burned Aaron's lungs, and the bay echoed with shouts and the clash of weapons. Aaron swung the stolen rifle like a club, smashing it against the hunter's helmet. The blow rattled the man but didn't stop him. The blade came again, and Aaron barely blocked it with the rifle's frame. Lyra's voice rang out behind him. "Aaron, move!" Another burst of light filled the bay, slamming into the black-armored hunter. His armor cracked, and for the first time, he stumbled. Aaron seized the chance. With a roar, he drove the broken weapon into the hunter's chest, forcing him back. The massive figure fell to the ground, sparks flashing from his armor as he collapsed in defeat. Silence followed, broken only by Aaron's ragged breathing. The surviving hunters, seeing their leader fall, retreated into the shadows. Within moments, the bay was empty except for the smell of smoke and the sound of Aaron's ship's engines humming. Aaron dropped the weapon, his arms shaking. He turned to Lyra, who swayed on her feet, her strength nearly gone. He caught her, before she fell, holding her tightly. "You'll burn yourself out if you keep using that power," he whispered. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "If it means freedom, then it is worth it." Aaron stared at her for a long moment. He wanted to argue, to remind her that he never asked for this. But the words refused to come. Instead, he found himself saying something he never thought he would. "You're not going back to them. Not while I'm alive." Her eyes softened, and for the first time she looked less like a captive and more like something else entirely. His partner. Together they climbed aboard the ship. The engines roared to life, shaking the bay as the vessel lifted from the platform. Searchlights turned toward them and alarms screamed, but Aaron forced the ship higher, faster, until the city became nothing more than a glowing scar below. In the cockpit, Lyra sat beside him, her hand still gripping his arm. "You have chosen," she said softly. Aaron didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars spreading out before them, endless and unknown. Finally, he spoke. "Yeah, I guess I have." The ship pierced the clouds, vanishing into the dark sea of space. Behind them, the slaver fleet raged. Ahead of them, destiny waited. For Aaron, the mistake that had started in a market had become something far greater. He wasn't just a traveler anymore. He was protector, partner, and maybe even the savior of a people he never knew existed. And though he wouldn't admit it aloud, part of him already believed what Lyra had said from the start. He wasn't just her rescuer. He was her husband, and the galaxy would never see him the same way again.